Can I join a custodian's client referral program? That is today's question on the Transition to RIA question and answer series. It is episode number 113. Hi, I'm Brad Wales with Transition to RIA, where I hope you understand everything there is to know about why and how to transition your practice to the RIA model. If you're not already there, if you head on over to transitiontoria.com, you can find all of the resources I make available from this entire series in video format, podcast format. I have articles, I have white papers, all kinds of things to help you understand the model. Again, transitiontoria.com. Okay, on today's episode, this will probably be a shorter one compared to many episodes, but it is a question that I do get asked from time to time. It does come up, and that is, hey, if I were to start an RIA and choose a custodian, do you think I would be able to get on that custodian's client referral program? And so what I want to talk about just on this episode is, first of all, what is that program, for if you're not familiar with it, and what your likelihood of actually getting on that program is if you were to choose a particular custodian for that. So just as a starting point, kind of what are these programs? So several of the large custodians that you might choose for your practice, typically ones that have a retail presence, a direct-to-client and/or also maybe a retail offices throughout the country, where they have a lot of clients that currently are going directly to that custodian, again, through their retail channel, maybe their online channel, or again, through one of these offices, and they can service most of those clients without too many issues. A lot of those are possibly small clients. But as those clients become more sophisticated with their needs, as their wealth grows, oftentimes the needs of those clients will outgrow what those channels were meant to service. And so instead of trying to kind of jam those clients in or keep them jammed into something that's arguably maybe not a good solution any longer for that client, several of these custodians have come up with and they have different names for them, but it's essentially a custodial or a client referral program where they say, hey, we will take these or suggest to the clients. Obviously, it's entirely up to the client whether they want to do this or not. But where we feel that client maybe needs more sophisticated needs or more resources or more hands-on support than we can provide either directly online or again through these retail offices, we will suggest to those clients, hey, there are some RIAs that we feel would be a good solution for you that can help you with some of your more sophisticated needs, and they have the resources that you might need. And by the way, you'll be able to keep your assets right here. They're not going to move from the custodian. You're just going to get a higher level of experience or a higher level of resources provided to you, a service model, all of those sorts of things. And so, hey, we'd love to introduce you if you're interested. And obviously, you can understand why RIAs are excited to potentially be on the receiving end of such referrals, because again, by nature of who's being maybe referred to them, these are generally larger, more sophisticated clients. Now, the custodians are not just doing this out of the goodness of their heart. They are a for-profit business. They are essentially giving up that direct relationship, although the assets would be staying with them as a custodian. So there is a financial arrangement that's like, hey, if we're the custodian, hey, RA, we send this business over to you. Again, not one, we of course expect you to keep it at the same custodian, which is going to benefit the client as well. They're not going to have to move the assets. And traditionally, and I don't know, it could have changed or might have been discounted up or down for some RAs, but generally that's around 25 basis point fee perpetually goes back to the custodian. So again, custodian says, hey, RA, we're going to refer this client over there. You're going to charge perhaps your typical 100 basis point fee. And from that, you're going to provide all the services, resources that you normally do for your clients. And you're going to pay us a perpetual 25 basis point trail off that. And you might think, well, 25 basis points, that's by math. If you happen to charge 100 basis points, it's 25% of my revenue. That is a big chunk that does need to be considered whether that math still would work for you. But that is a client you arguably would not have got or might not have been able to get on your own. And here it is referred to. So it can be very lucrative for the RA and lucrative for the custodian as well, because now not only are they making traditional custodial fees or the traditional revenue as a custodian, they're now making this 25 basis point arrangement as well. So that's pretty typical. Something I think just as a little prediction, I think we might see more of this or some of this coming out in even the independent broker-dealer world going forward. There are a couple independent broker-dealers out there that are starting up. Some have actual custodial channels, but some are starting up programs where they will be the acquirer of their 1099 independent broker-dealer channel advisors at the end of their career, as opposed to maybe selling to another advisor, selling to whoever. There's starting to be independent broker-dealers who are saying, hey, we will buy your practice. We will be a buyer. It's going to be easy for you. It's going to be easy for the clients. We will be a buyer. And I think we're going to see more of that going forward. Now, what that has to do with today's episode is, as they buy those practices, those broker-dealers now need to service those clients. And so they have to find a way to either staff that, kind of a home office team, or are they going to try to have take over a physical presence in different cities and in places around the country? And so I don't know. We'll see, but there's a chance that some of these independent broker-dealer firms might even adopt a similar kind of strategy where they acquire the assets and then they look to maybe reassign those out to oftentimes might be geographically located offices, advisors of theirs that are in that same geography with a similar kind of arrangement. Like, hey, we will send these to your clients. You pay us, a portion of the revenue that you generate from them. To be determined, but just it'll be interesting to see if that occurs as well. But at a minimum, this custodian client referral program is absolutely occurring, and it's very, very large as it stands now. So the question is, if you were to start an RIA and you know about these programs, well, that would be great if I could become one of the preferred RIAs, or just not just preferred, but one of the RIAs that are on the list that these custodians have that they will refer to. And sometimes I hear that when advisors or teams are talking to custodians, and the custodians might say, oh yeah, no, hey, we might be able to get you on the client referral list as kind of part of the pitch. And on today's episode, I want to basically say, except for very rare circumstances, the answer is likely to be no. You will not be able to get on that client referral program. Now, there are exceptions. There are RIAs that do it, but to set expectations, it's not likely, and I want to share a couple of reasons why that is the case. So, for starters, for the custodians that have these arrangements, there's not that many that they are even allowing on that list of participating RIAs to begin with. Some it's measured in dozens, maybe 100 and something, maybe a little larger. But when the fact that custodian services hundreds, if not thousands of RIAs, it is a very small subset that are essentially allowed onto these programs, these referral programs. So just that alone shows you that they are very picky, they are very choosy. Understandably, they have some very good selections on those programs. And so for them to add someone new, that kind of saturates the current partnership that they already have with those firms. So just number one is it's not a very big program to begin with. Number two, if anything, those programs, the number of participating RIAs on those programs has seemed to shrunk. So there has been industry consolidation over the past couple of years, particularly example Schwab acquiring TD. And if anything, the trend seems to be that the total number of RIAs with all these custodians, if you were to add them all up that are participating in these programs, and I don't have the hard data, but anecdotally, some feedback I've seen, that has probably shrunk over the last couple of years, not grown. So it's already a relatively small number. If anything, that number seems to be getting smaller, not bigger. So hence, again, a bigger hill to overcome if you wanted to be added to it. The next example, typically the RIAs that are in these programs have billions in assets with that custodian already. That's a part of why the custodians essentially, to a degree, rewarding them with this opportunity, with this relationship. And so if you come in and you might have a very nice sized practice, let's say you have 500 million, 600 million, and you're going to choose a custodian, that's a great relationship for the custodian. That's a wonderful practice you've built. But you're up against, again, if you're trying to get on these programs with firms that already have billions with that custodian. So again, it would be hard to overcome where that RIA is saying, hey, custodian, keep us in mind. Think of all the revenue you generate off of us because we have billions with you. We want to be on this program, and we don't want you necessarily add in, dozens more because that's going to saturate our opportunity with that. So unfortunately, that's another kind of challenge to get it on these programs. And then the final one that I think a lot of folks don't even realize that this has kind of occurred, that these programs have evolved to the point that some, if not all, of these participating RIAs that are on these programs, again, besides being very large RIAs, the billions with just that one custodian alone, they have actually built out teams of people at the RIA whose sole job is they're almost essentially a wholesaler. They are going out to that custodian's retail offices, and each of those retail offices has, an advisor or advisors in those, and those are the advisors that might be making those decisions that, wow, this client has outgrown us, this client is more sophisticated, okay, so I'm going to try to find them an RIA that might be a better fit for them, and so that retail branch has the list available to them. But those large RIAs actually have team members whose sole job is to go out and foster relationships with these people in these retail branches and to maintain those relationships over time so that when that opportunity comes along that, hey, there is a client that needs to be referred off, that if I'm that RIA and I'm that called, a relationship manager with these retail advisors, that, hey, I'm top of mind. My firm's top of mind. They think of me when they say, okay, who are we going to maybe intro this firm to? And so the custodians know that these big RIAs are putting resources into really fostering this program, trying to make it as good of an experience for the client, for their own retail operations. And so if you come along and you don't have any of that, again, that's just going to be difficult to be able to get on those lists and compete essentially against those other RIAs to be able to be on the receiving end of those referrals. So I just want to be a straight shooter on this. I'm not saying it's not possible. Custodians might change how they approach these programs over time. It might be doable for your firm. Every circumstance is different, but just realistically speaking, take it with a grain of salt. If you're ever told, oh yeah, hey, we might be able to get you on a program, it is a heavy lift. Now, I will leave you with one suggestion that I think if there maybe was a way to overcome some of these challenges, particularly if you don't already have billions in assets and you don't have this team already built out that's going to foster these relationships, is I think if I was an RIA and I was hoping to get on these, I would be positioning it with the custodians. Now, you have to be able to back this up, but if you have a highly specialized niche and you and your team are very good at something, particularly if it's a complicated subject, maybe it's equity compensation for highly compensated executives, and you're dealing with equity grants and RSUs and stock options, and you and your team are very good at that, and that's a very kind of unique skill set that not necessarily everyone has, where you can maybe say, hey, custodians, you are going to come across some of those clients from time to time, and you can't just arguably send that to just any RIA that maybe doesn't have that specialty. So, hey, this is the specialty we have. We would like you to think about us when those opportunities come. We realize you might not think about us for other opportunities, but we would like that opportunity. And so, and again, not up to me, but if it was me and I was an RA and I was hoping to get on one of these channels and I don't have that skill, I think that's what you would have to do is demonstrate, and you got to back it up, that you have a very niche expertise and that you might be able to add that slice to the pie and be able to communicate that out with all the people that need to know about you and that you exist and that they think of you when that opportunity arises, which even that is going to take a lot of resources. But I think that's maybe an angle to work. But just merely showing out a couple $100 million in assets and saying, hey, I'd love to be on this program, it's going to be a heavy lift for all the reasons I just said. So with that, like I said at the top, my name is Brad Wales. This is the type of thing I help advisors with, is understand how does the RIA model work? What are the opportunities in the RIA model? How might you be able to take advantage of them, or where they maybe are not going to be an opportunity for you? I am a straight shooter, so I don't want to always paint everything as rosy. I want to tell the tale where it needs to be said, of where something might not be as possible to do as you would hope, so that you can make a fully informed decision about whether you should transition into the model or what it might look like for your practice. So as a starting point, if, again, I said at the top, if you head on over to transitiontoria.com, you can find all of the resources I make available, again, for this entire series in video format, podcast format. I have articles, I have white papers, and at the top of every page is a contact link. If you click on that, you can instantly and easily schedule time to have a one-on-one conversation with me, whether you want to talk about today's topic or anything else RIA related. I'm happy to have that conversation with you. Again, transitiontoria.com. And with that, I hope you found value in today's episode, and I'll see you on the next one.